What is up, guys? It's Cal, and the new Elysium PvP server is coming out tomorrow. I've already said this in a few videos, and I will be live streaming the launch of it if you do want to check that out. But the main point of this video, because I do want to get one more video out before that, is I'm just going to be talking about the vanilla races and classes individually. If you didn't play in vanilla, this is what the character selection screen looked like, or the creating a new character screen looked like. So it's a bit different. I'm going to talk about each racial that they have, their classes. I'm not going to tell you what to play. Like, I'm not going to tell you, oh, if you're a human, you should be this class or whatever, because I'm not going to spew crap at you guys like I'm Alex Sensual or something. I'm just going to pretty much talk about each class or each race individually, and I'm going to talk about each classes, and then you can pick on your own which one you'd like to play. So as I'm pretty sure I've already stated, is that each race has racials. For humans, they have a reputation extra gain of 10%. It's called diplomacy. That is actually very good. So all reputation that they gain throughout the game is increased by an extra 10%. They have the human spirit, which increases their spirit by 5%. So that's good if you maybe want to be a spellcaster class like priests, mages, warlocks. Spirit increases your mana regeneration, by the way. Paladins also, because paladins also use mana. Now, humans have mace specialization, sword specialization, sorry. I am actually a bit sick right now, so excuse my groggy voice, but their maces, two-handed maces, swords, and two-handed sword skills increased by 5. That really shouldn't sway your pick on what class you want to choose. That's just something extra. Then humans have perception, which dramatically increases their stealth detection for 20 seconds. And that's a 3-minute cooldown. So that is interesting. I'm going to go over the classes at the end, what each class does individually. But as you can see here, humans can be warriors, paladins, rogues, priests, mages, and warlocks. Now let's look at the dwarf. Dwarf's main racial is called stone form, which grants them an immunity to blood, poison, and disease effects. It also increases their armor by 10%. That lasts 8 seconds and has a 3-minute cooldown. So that one is also very good. So while it's active, they can't have bleed effects on them, can't have poison effects, can't have disease effects, and their armor is increased. And then dwarfs have a gun skill increased by 5. Now, hunters are going to be the main range class, but warriors and rogues can also use ranged weapons. Now, dwarfs have a frost resistance increased by 10. Resistances were actually very big back in vanilla, so that is kind of a major one. Whether it sways your opinion to pick a dwarf or not is up to you. And then dwarfs have an interesting racial, finally, called Find Treasure, which has treasure appear on their minimap as long as they're tracking treasures. It'll show up as like a small gold pin, and these treasures obviously are chests. They also are crates that may contain meat, they can be barrels that contain water, and such and so forth. Now let's go to the Night Elf. Oh, and also dwarfs, you probably saw, they can be warriors, paladins, hunters, rogues, and priests. Next, the Night Elf. Night Elves have a ability called Shadow Meld. It's their main racial. They use it while out of combat. You can't use it in combat, and it makes them invisible. They have to be standing still while using it though. It makes them, or harder to detect at least. So you'll be able to see them if you get close to them while they're invisible, but further away you won't really be able to see them. Now if a rogue or a druid were to use Shadow Meld while they're already stealth, they're pretty much invisible. It does stack like that. I forget what the cooldown on Shadow Meld is. It's like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. Night Elves also have something called Quickness, which increases their dodge by 1%. And then this other one that's interesting, it's kind of fun. Whenever you die, so all races, whenever you die, you appear as a ghost. But hunters appear as a wisp. It's like it's a circular, spherical, glowing ball, which increases your speed while dead by 50%. And then Night Elves have an increased nature resistance by 10. Now for gnomes. Gnomes have, their main one is called Escape Artist, which escapes the effects of immobilized or movement reduction effects. So if they're rooted or if they're slowed, they can use Escape Artist and get out of that. That's a 1-minute cooldown, and cast time is 1 second. They also have something called Expansive Mind, which increases their intellect by 5%. So that's good if you are a class that uses mana, like mages or warlocks. That increases your mana pool. Gnomes also have an increased arcane resistance of 10. Also, another one is that their engineering skill is increased by 15, so that's pretty cool. That's not like the mace or sword specialization that the human had. Engineering is a profession, so if you do pick up engineering as a gnome, it will be increased by 15, greater than the normal. And gnomes can be warriors, rogues, mages, and warlocks. I think I forgot to say the one for Night Elf. Night Elves can be warriors, hunters, rogues, priests, and druids. They're only one of 2 classes that can be druids, and I'll get into all that at the end. So now we're over with the Horde. Let's start with the Orc. So the Orc's main trait, racial, is called Blood Fury. Now this one is a little specific. It increases your base melee attack power by 25% for 15 seconds and reduces healing effects on you by 50% for 25 seconds and has a 2-minute cooldown. So it has a plus, but then it has a drawback with the healing reduction. I put extra emphasis on the melee attack power because that's something to look out for. So it won't do ranged attack power. So like if you're a class, let's say a Warlock or Elemental Shaman, or in most cases a Hunter, that won't be that useful to you. There are some cases where Hunters might have to melee the target. They are mainly a range class. Blood Fury won't do anything with your casting attack power or range attack power. Orcs also have something called Hardiness, which chance to resist stuns is increased by 25%. That's really good, especially in PvP. Another one, which kind of just contradicts what I said about the Blood Fury, is Command, which damage done by Hunter and Warlock pets is increased by 5%. So I guess Blizzard realized, okay, Blood Fury isn't really that good for Hunters and Warlocks, so let's give them Command to kind of counterbalance that. So Hunter and Warlock pets have increased damage by 5%. Also, Orcs Axe specialization, their one-handed and two-handed axe, is increased by 5 points. Next one's the Undead. The Undead, their main racial is called Will of the Forsaken, which grants them immunity to charm, fear, and sleep effects, and it lasts for 5 seconds and has a 2-minute cooldown. So that doesn't count towards stuns. You can't use it on stuns, but like a charm effect would be a priest's mind control. You can use Will of the Forsaken on that. You can also use Will of the Forsaken when those effects are already on you. So if you're in the middle of sleeping, you can use it and you get out of the sleep. And then Undeads have another fun one called Cannibalize, which you can eat humanoid and undead corpses, and it heals you for 7% of your health every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. So that's interesting. If you move, you can't do any action, or you can't take any damage while you're cannibalizing another target. Undeads also have underwater breathing extended. So back in vanilla, when you go underwater, you have a breath bar. It wasn't very long, but Undeads have a much longer one, but it's increased by 300% longer than normal. And then Undeads also have a shadow resistance increased by 10. Undeads could also be warriors, rogues, priests, mages, and warlocks. I think I forgot to say orcs. Orcs can be warriors, hunters, rogues, shamans, and warlocks. Next, let's move on to the Tauren. Now, Tauren's main one is called War Stomp, which it's a very useful stun. It has a 2-minute cooldown. You use it and it stuns up to 5 targets around an 8-yard radius of you for 2 seconds. So you use it and up to 5 targets around you are stunned. Taurens also have their total health increased by 5%. It's called Endurance. And then similar to Gnome's Engineering increase, Tauren have a Herbalism increase of 15 points. That is called Cultivation. Also similar to Night Elves, Taurens have a Nature Resistance increase of 10 points. And Tauren can be warriors, hunters, shamans, or druids. They are the other race that can be druids. And now last but not least, Trolls. Trolls' main racial is called Berserking, which is kind of the counter one of Blood Fury for Orcs, is that Trolls benefits attack speed and spellcasters. But it's interesting how it works. It increases your casting and attack speed by 10% to 25%. Now, how that works is that if you're at full health, it increases your attack speed or casting speed by 10%, but if you're badly wounded, it increases it by 25%. So the more you're hurt, the better Berserking is for you. And that lasts 10 seconds and has a 3-minute cooldown. Trolls' health regeneration is also increased by 10%, and that also can continue in combat. Trolls also do 5% increased damage against beasts, and their throwing and bow skill is increased by 5%, so that's good. Maybe if you're hunter, if you use bows, maybe if you use a bow as a warrior, rogues, throwing knives, whatever. And that is that, and trolls can be warriors, hunters, rogues, priests, shamans, and mages. So that's it for the racials of each individual race. Now, there were class-specific sort of racials that classes do. They don't make it very apparent for you in the game. Those are something to look up. I'm not going to go far in depth into that because that usually won't sway someone's opinion to pick a class for a race. Now let's go to the classes individually. It wasn't until Cataclysm that Blizzard decided to put more class combinations in, so I believe it's Gnomes and Tauren have the least amount of combinations. Also, one thing to note, which I mentioned before, is that the only two classes, there's only one Alliance class that can be Druids, that is Night Elves, and one Horde class that can be Druids, which is Tauren. And now Alliance can only be Paladins, that's humans and dwarfs, and then for Horde, there's only two classes that can be Shamans, which is Orcs and Trolls. So Alliance can't be Shamans, Horde can't be Paladins. For classes, we have the Warrior, who is sort of just your main basic melee class. They're kind of harder. I heard that they're kind of harder to level, but endgame they are very good. Any class is really good endgame. You just need to know how to play it. Their three specs is they have Arms and Fury, which are their main DPS specs. Protection, which is their main tanking spec. They weren't really divided like that in vanilla, but Protection has more points into things that increase your armor, so it's usually better for tanking. And then we have Paladin, which is the hybrid class. Like they can tank, which is protection for them also. Retribution, which is their DPS spec, and then Holy, which has more points into healing. So they can do all three of those things. They can also put bubbles on themselves to make themselves invulnerable. They're a very fun class to play. Rogues are a stealthy class. They're one of the highest DPSs end game. They can stealth, they can go invisible, and so people can't really see them unless they're super close to them. They can appear behind their target, they usually get the first hit, that sort of thing. Priest is sort of more of a healing class. They have three specs. They have Shadow, they have Discipline, and they have Holy. Discipline didn't really have that much of an identity back in vanilla. Some say that Shadow is more for DPS, Holy is more for healing. Overall, in raids, a lot of times you will be asked to be a healer. But once again, no negativity. This is only positivity. You pick up what you want. Next we have Mage. Mages is all DPS. Same thing with Rogues. I forgot to say that. Rogues and Mages, all DPS specs. Mages can be Arcane. They can shoot fire, they can shoot frost. Those are their three specs. They are a spellcasting class that fires from far away. They don't have much armor because they are a cloth wearing class, so keep that in mind. Warlocks, kind of similar to mages as they're spellcasting and they also wear cloth. Warlocks can summon demons to attack with them. They can summon an imp to attack with them. They can summon a voidwalker to help tank things, succubus, just a bunch of different things. So they can summon demons to help with them. So those are 6. There's 9 classes total, and humans can be 6 of them. Next, let's go to Hunter, which dwarves can be. Hunter is your range class. Hunters can melee, but they do most damage at range. They hold ammunition. They're a very popular class. They're not the best endgame, but they're also far from the worst. When they reach level 10, they can tame a beast, which follows them through their adventure, but you do have to feed the beast meat, so he doesn't run away and start attacking you. I think I already said this, that they use ammunition. They use bows and guns as their main attacking thing, and then they can melee, of course, as well. But the one big thing about hunters is that they have a minimum range of, I think it's 7 yards, or is it 8? I'm pretty sure it's 7 yards. They can't shoot anything that's within 7 yards of them. They wear leather until level 40, then they can start wearing mail. Same way with paladins. Well, paladins and warriors wear mail until level 40, and then they can wear plate. Let's see, it's hunters. I think druids. So now we have Druid is the shape-shifting class. They have 3 specs. They have Feral, Balance, and Resto. Now, okay, so the things that they can shapeshift into is they can shapeshift into a cat. I forget what level all these things are, but I think a bear is actually level 10. I don't know, but they can shapeshift into a bear, which increases their armor. It's usually seen as the more tanking one. They can shapeshift into a cat, which is a more DPS one. I guess you can DPS as a bear, though. Just, I want that to be clear. At back vanilla, you can DPS as a bear. In the water, they can shapeshift into a seal, which makes them swim faster. And Balance is their main DPS. Well, I mean, it's a DPS spec. I wouldn't say it's their main. Feral is also a DPS spec, but you can tank as a Feral also. Balance, you can turn into a moonkin, which is like a giant big chicken thing. It's pretty cool. And then Resto is more of the healing spec, where you can turn into a tree. So those are the things that druids can shapeshift into. They're a pretty fun class, I think, because of all the things that they can shapeshift into. It was, I believe, the second class I ever created. First class I ever created was a hunter, and then a druid. And now the last class I believe I need to talk about is shaman. Druids only wear leather, by the way. Rogues also only wear leather. Shaman. So shaman is the horde only class, like paladin is the alliance only. Shaman is the horde only. They can heal as Resto, that's their healing spec. They have Enhance, which is more of a melee DPS one. They have Elemental, which is more of a ranged DPS one, where they're a spellcaster as well. So Shamans they can summon totems, which help your group. They're very good at helping their group. A Shaman will usually always be asked to go to a raid because of their totems. They have quite a bit of utility. I believe same as Hunters, yeah, they wear leather until level 40, then they can wear mail. So those are pretty much all of the classes, yeah. So that's the whole video, guys. I want to know what classes and races you guys are going to be. You can leave that in the comments if you want. If you're going to play on the new Elysium server, if you're going to tune into the live stream, I want to start live streaming more because it is kind of fun. I've done a couple test live streams just to make sure it's working, which it is. But that's the whole video, guys. You can leave a like on it. If it was helpful at all, you can sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.